So I am Carter Sande. I am not a professional gamer. I'm a software engineer at a company called Triplebyte. We make a coding quiz using Ruby on Rails. Um, More relevantly for this talk, I'm the co-author of a book called Hello World: Computer Programming for Kids and Other Beginners. This is an introductory programming book that uses Python. It's currently in its third edition. And our book uses a lot of different Python modules to teach various programming concepts. We introduce things like Pygame and PyQt to talk about different approaches to graphics. New in the third edition, we're using the built-in socket module and the telnet command to teach network programming. So one of the unique challenges that you run into when you write a kid's book is how do you actually get all of this software, Python, idle, all these modules, onto the kid's computer? Because the kind of people who buy our book are not necessarily going to be comfortable with computers themselves. They're not necessarily going to want to open up their console and use pip and install different packages. So what we do on Windows is we ask our friend Sean to create this combo installer that basically runs all of the official installers for Python and PyQt and Pygame and all that one after another. And this works really well on Windows. We don't need to update it very frequently. We ask readers to write in via email if they have any issues, and we don't get many issues from our Windows users. On macOS, the situation is a little bit more complicated. We started out trying to do the same thing that we did on Windows. macOS has this installer package system, so we made a single big meta package that included all the software needed for the book. Now this sort of worked initially, but we discovered a couple issues. First, it's difficult to uninstall software that people install this way. Also, as it turns out, our book actually, the second edition of it lived longer than a lot of the open source software it used. So we needed to do things like build Qt4 with custom patches to get it working on the latest macOS, and trying to recreate the official installer packages was pretty difficult. So what we tried to do next was use Homebrew. Homebrew is a very popular open source package manager for macOS. It has a whole load of packages, including Python and all sorts of Python related things. So we built a single big meta package that included everything we needed. And again, this sort of worked initially, but we ran into some trouble. As it turns out, readers in countries like China that have internet restrictions couldn't use Homebrew. We had issues with multi-user systems because Homebrew is really designed for individual developers with their own laptops. And the Homebrew maintainers like to do things like rename packages that, while that make things better for individual users, does create a bit of a maintenance burden if, like us, you're building software that depends on Homebrew. So for the third edition, I decided to roll up my sleeves and do what will definitely be the best and final solution to the installing Python on macOS for kids problem, Hello World 3.app. So this is a single self-contained app bundle. You can drag and drop it to anywhere on your file system, even like a flash drive. You don't even have to be an administrator. You open it up and you get a little window with buttons to open idle, Qt Designer, and Terminal. So the way this works under the hood is that macOS app bundles are basically just fancy folders. So for a typical Objective-C application, you might have like the launcher application, which is a binary executable, and stuff like the icon. If you're packaging up a Python application to distribute to people, you'll include a couple of extra things, like you'll include a copy of Python, and you'll include the actual Python script that gets executed to run your program. And usually you use a tool like PyInstaller or Py2app to do this automatically for you. So you might think for our book that creating the app bundle would be as easy as drag and dropping stuff like idle and Qt Designer into our app bundle. And it almost was. The trouble is, how does idle.app find python.framework? Well, normally, if you just install Python from the python.org website, it hard codes it. There's a piece of code in the idle.app that says, find Python here. Now, that wouldn't work for our app bundle because users can drag it anywhere on their file system. So we had to rewrite all of these paths to say this awful relative at executable path / parent, 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 parent frameworks, python.framework. And again, if you're using something like PyInstaller and Py2app, these will do this automatically for you. They'll rewrite all the binaries and stuff as needed. But we couldn't really use those because, as it turns out, when you're shipping an entire Python development environment, the dependency tree is a little bit more complicated. So if you'd like to see the results of this effort, they're up on GitHub at github.com/cp4k/helloworld3mac. If you'd like to download the finished installer and try it out, or if you're interested in getting the book, you can do that at helloworldbook3.com. And if you do run into any issues with our Mac installer or any other aspect of our book or the stuff we distribute, please let us know at cp4khelp@gmail.com. Thank you very much.